Hi, and welcome to The Bright Balloon, a podcast where I'm sharing bright ideas for your balloon business. My name is Sarah Meyer, and I'm a balloon business owner like you, and I love the creative side of what I do, but I really love the business side, which seems to be the part where most people struggle. So I'm here to help. Each week, I'm bringing you an episode full of bite-sized tips you can use to make tiny improvements to your business. I want you to make more money, eliminate stress, and learn along with me as we grow our creative businesses together. Welcome to The Bright Balloon. Hello and welcome to this episode. This is going to be a rapid fire episode where I am simply going to list off all of the things that I use to run my business. So all of the apps, all of the websites, all of the software, all of the specific things I use to run the ins and outs of my balloon business, because that's the number one question that I get. People asking like what website I use, or how do I build my website, or how do I process credit card payments? What do I use to send invoices? So I have gone into detail on some of these things in other episodes, but in this episode, I'm just going to fly through a list of everything that I use because I think that's helpful. Sometimes hearing what other people use to kind of fill in the gaps of their company. Hopefully that might fill a void in your company, or if you're looking to change services or start a new service. I'm simply just going to tell you what I use to run my business. Everything from my website to my invoicing to social media, everything. So I'm going to go quickly to keep this one brief. And again, if you want more detail, you can likely find that in another episode, a standalone episode. This episode is just going to kind of serve as like a full-on resource guide. So all of these things will be linked in the show notes if you want more information or if you want to test them out yourself. But I'm just going to list off how and why I use each of these products. So before we launch in, I just want to say thank you to my first few patrons over on the Patreon. So if you are finding value in this podcast and you would like to essentially like leave a tip and support the podcast financially, you can do that using the link in the show notes on the Patreon page. All right, with that, let's get into all of the things that I use. So the first thing that I use that controls a lot is kind of like G Suite. So Google everything. So I use Gmail, and that's kind of like my main email hub. From there, I also have access to Google Photos and Google Drive. So I use Photos for like sharing and organizing. I use Google Drive for some larger documents, just like cloud-based storage. More and more as I am now working with an employee, it's a nice place to share things like photos and documents, everything from like how to do something or guides or just things that we both need access to. It's really nice to keep it in Google Drive. My website is set up using Wix, and I actually have a course that if you're looking for a website, the course walks you through how to set it up on Wix the same way that I did. And I really like Wix. I rank first on Google. I don't have any problems with that. I know some people criticize that it's not like the most SEO friendly. Personally, I've never had a problem with that. I love Wix. I think it's really intuitive. On my Wix website, instead of using their general contact form, I have embedded my own contact form, which is linked into 17 Hats. So you've heard me talk about 17 Hats a lot. That is my CRM. So I would say the bulk of my business is run through 17 Hats, and it plays nice with pretty much everything, which is why I like it. So as soon as someone goes to my website, then I direct them to my inquiry form. And as soon as they fill out like that contact form, then they are into my 17 Hats system. So from there, I do all of my invoicing, all of my, actually like my emailing, my back and forth. Everything is in 17 Hats on my end. Even though that is technically linked up through my website, it's linked up using Google. I send my invoicing through 17 Hats, but then this is where things get a little tricky. My actual like processing, like the place that processes the credit card payments, that is Square. So you can do invoicing through Square directly. I use Square just as my credit card processing system, and then that also all goes through 17 Hats. And then once people pay their invoice, that gets logged onto my Quickbooks Online. I know originally I did an episode saying that I was using QuickBooks Self-Employed. I did upgrade this year, so now I'm doing QuickBooks Online. And that also syncs with my 17 Hats accounts. So QuickBooks is pulling in information from my bank account, but also it's pulling in invoice information from 17 Hats. So when I get a payment of like $100 from Kathy, QuickBooks knows that the $100 was deposited into my bank account, and it can also kind of match it with Kathy, who they can see paid a $100 invoice in 17 Hats. So that way you're kind of actually matching your customers with their transactions, which is good. Before, with self-employed, it was really only tracking the money. QuickBooks Online tracks a lot more. So it's tracking like invoices that are not paid, anticipated money that's coming in, invoices that are late, who has paid what. There's a lot more reporting. So that's why I switched to QuickBooks Online. So that was a lot just right there, but that's kind of the bulk of my business. I would say that's like 90% of the stuff people need to know or people ask about. So my website is on Wix, and once you fill out the contact form, everything else is through 17 Hats. So that's kind of hard for people to kind of like understand when I try to explain it in messages and stuff, but think of Wix as like my store. So like once you walk into a store, you're in it. Then if you want to buy something, you have to like go to the cash register and they check you out. And then maybe they sign you up for like their email list and they give you a receipt and you pay. Think of 17 Hats as like the cash register and like the processing system. So everything else is connected through there. So I feel like that's where people get confused. They think that my website is doing all the work. My website is just like the building that houses all of the important stuff. So once people are to my website, they're to my, virtual store, let's say, everything else has to be run through another system, which is connected through 17 Hats. So all my organization, all my invoicing, all of my communication, that's all through 17 Hats. But again, you do need that credit card processor. You can use PayPal, you can use Square, you can use a bunch of stuff. Square has just worked really well for me. All right, on to some of the other things that are a little bit, more interesting. Social media. I've done an entire episode about how I used to use later.com. I still love that website to pre-plan your posts, but because my mentality of social media in general has changed, I'm not currently using anything. I don't pre-plan any of my posts. I just post when I have something that I want to post about. I'm not concerned about getting more followers or using the right hashtags. I'm really just using my social media platforms as like freestanding portfolios, if you will. So people are still finding my accounts, and I just want to make sure that the most updated photos that they see first are really good photos. So in order to do that, I'm posting less, and it seems to be fine. I used to post like almost every day, and it just got to be too much, and it grew this big inflated following on Instagram, most of whom are not potential clients. They're just like people who like balloons or other balloon companies, which is fine, but I'm not putting a lot of energy into growing that following. I'm putting my energy into posting current and really good content. So right now I don't have a social media planner. However, I am really active on Instagram. I'm less active on Facebook. I kind of have my account set up so that anything I post on Instagram automatically posts to Facebook. The thing that I like about Instagram is, again, looping back to my Wix website, I have a little Instagram feed embedded on my website. So any photos that I post on Instagram automatically show up on my website. So that's kind of a cool little trick. So like your website's really updated without having to physically go in and update it. So I have that Instagram feed. So my most like 5 recent posts on Instagram are what show up on my website. So that's nice when you're doing like holidays and stuff. It makes your website really current. So like if I post, in December, I'm doing Christmas parties, that's kind of cool that people would come to my website and see the most updated Christmas stuff. So that's possible on pretty much any website. You can do that no matter what you use to build your website. Just have that little Instagram feed embed on there. For my inventory, this is a question I get. I don't use anything. I have no process for keeping track of inventory. I'm actually changing to something that my friend Nikki from Balloon Boss Mastermind recommended, and this is what's going to work best for me. So basically, I just did an order of I ordered like $1,500 in balloons. So I have 2 of every color. And I'm also working off a color chart now. So I am giving my clients my standard color chart and letting them choose. I am not offering them every single color that they've ever seen on Instagram. That's not feasible these days. So I have my standard colors and I keep all of those. I'm keeping 2 or 3 bags of 11-inch in stock, a couple bags of 5-inch of every single color. And this was Nikki's tip. Instead of ordering like what you need, like based on what you have, going through your inventory and seeing what you have and then like ordering more, it's a lot easier to order based on what you don't have. So when she runs out of balloons, she puts that empty bag in a box and just kind of collects those empty bags. Then a couple times a month, she just sits down at the computer and reorders whatever empty bags she has in front of her, because she knows that like she's just replenishing what she's used, and that's keeping her stock at like a full level. So that's what I'm doing now. So I don't have any like techie inventory tracking apps or anything. I just have my full inventory in stock, and then I'm ordering whatever I need to replenish. And I'm doing that by keeping track of just like empty bags. So again, I'll have to do specialty orders, like certain events just need like a bunch of neons or a bunch of prints, and I don't keep a lot of those in stock, so those will still be specialty orders. But in terms of getting ahead of like my everyday orders, this has been a system that's been working for me recently. But again, no app, no website, no spreadsheet. I don't do anything tricky when it comes to keeping track of inventory. For my training, I am a member of Balloon Boss Mastermind. All of those resources are on ballooncoach.com. That's also the show sponsor. So people ask me all the time, like how I learn balloons. So I invested a lot in conventions when I first started and taking classes. So if you have not ever been to any sort of training, right now it's a little bit tricky to do in-person events. There's a few happening this year, but you can start learning tomorrow using ballooncoach.com. There's old webinars on there. Everything is saved, all the resources that you need to download. Like it's just a really good way to learn kind of the foundations of balloons and beyond. I mean, everything's on there. So that is the training I recommend. And then as like a bonus, the inflators, I get that question a lot too, like what inflators I use. So I've had a few. Right now I am using all premium air products. So I have the premium, I believe it's the dual, like the split sizer, I think it's called. I don't know. It's the one that, it's like $1,200. It's a sizer, so it's expensive, but it makes the balloons all the same size, which is really nice based on like a timer. And then I also have like the lower model of the premium air where it doesn't size, it just kind of blows, however long you press the little nozzle. So those are the two I use for 99% of things. I used to have an Air Force 4, which I really liked, but it died. And I loved it. I really did, but I'm not willing to replace it right now because my other inflators do what I need them to do, just probably not as fast. So I'm hoping to figure out a way to repair the Air Force 4 because I did really like it. But that's all I have. I have 2 inflators and that is it in terms of like fancy equipment. I think that is it in terms of everything. Like that is everything I could think of in terms of what I use online. And at the beginning there, I know it sounds like a lot with like my website and 17 hats and Square, but really it's like 4 things that all work together. And if you do set up 17 hats, it walks you through all those things. Like 17 hats syncs with Square and it helps you set that up. It also syncs with QuickBooks and you can set that up in like the bookkeeping tab. So it's not like I have invented all of these different systems that work together. Like they're meant to work together. Like QuickBooks knows that it needs to integrate with lots of different things. So does 17 hats, so does Square, so does Wix. So that's why I pick all of those because they play really nicely together. Also, just as a side note, as I am now working with my first employee, and she's like a digital specialist, it's really nice to have all those things in place because she can also log in and work with them. So she can log into my 17 hats and like streamline my workflows and get into my website and tweak things. So again, I guess that the point of that being that if you are just running your whole business via like DMs and emails, that would be really hard to like integrate an employee or any help into your system, because like your systems are just kind of in your head. But when they're systems that actually like exist, and like, for example, Nicole, she is the person helping me. She could like log in and see my workflow in 17 Hats and figure out where she could help and where we could streamline. She can go into QuickBooks and see the transactions. She could go onto my website and see how I am marketing my sales, versus when everything's just in your head and in your email and in your Instagram DMs, that's really hard to incorporate someone else into the fold. So I think the sooner you can put systems in place that work together, to not only help you grow in the future, but to just like for peace of mind now and to streamline. I've used a lot of different things, and these are the ones that I have landed on. The other thing I wanted to mention is Canva. So anything like graphic, anything digital, I do in Canva. And I have Photoshop. I have, I can do like the real way, but canva.com is like, I think the best platform to come out in years. And it's growing so quickly, which is really awesome. Like I recorded an episode saying that I ordered a shirt from Canva, but I was kind of not super happy with it because they had so few options. Now already they have like sweatshirts, they have new colors, like all of the features are growing. And recently they just launched the video editor on Canva, which is very cool. I don't do a ton of video, but I am going to dabble with that. So canva.com is my resource for like all things graphic design. And I don't want to speak too soon, but I'm going to. I'm also going to have a lot more resources available to you through Canva. So if you are brand new to Canva or you don't know what I'm talking about, sign up. Just have a free account, even though I totally think that the paid account is worth it. But start kind of figuring out your way around Canva, because it's only going to get more powerful. And then I'm going to be releasing some resources for you that are going to be compatible with Canva in the next couple weeks or months here. So I'm excited about that. All right. I think that answers most of the frequently asked questions that I get. I know it can be overwhelming to figure out like how to get a website and how to process payments and how to do everything. But really, I would look at those 4 things. I would look at Wix. I would look at 17 Hats. I would look at Square. And then I love Gmail. That's Gmail and Google everything has like never let me down. So I would start with those 4 things, and they work really well together. You're not going to get like so far down the rabbit hole and then realize like, oh my gosh, I just built a website that can't process orders. What am I supposed to do? Because I've done that before, and that's terrible. So that is what I use to run my entire business. Everything works pretty seamlessly together, and maybe you can take some of those things and fill in some of the gaps that aren't working in your business. Maybe you're starting from the very beginning and you don't even have a website. So I would first get an email and then check out the website course if you are interested. That is only going to be available through the end of the year. And then I am retiring it just because technology changes so fast. I don't want to have an outdated product out there. So the website course is $99, and that walks you through setting up an entire Wix website in just a matter of days. So that's an option as well. All right. I hope that was helpful. I know that I went fast, but I think that's what you guys like. Just like fast tips. You can take them or leave them. Hopefully they helped. And then starting next week, I'm excited. I'm going to have guests back on the show.
That wraps up this episode. Thank you so much for joining me. As always, I tried to keep it bright and light in a few minutes or less. I'll talk to you next time. For more information about any of the resources or courses mentioned in today's show, please head to thebrightballoon.com or check the show notes wherever you're listening.